There is a very disturbing trend emerging in mainstream music today. More and more, we are seeing mainstream artists and popular songs filled with dark, disturbing, and overtly satanic imagery. From music videos to live performances, there is an undeniable rise in the appearance of demonic symbols, satanic references, and unsettling portrayals of evil. We must ask ourselves why this is happening. Why are so many artists suddenly comfortable associating themselves with Satan, or, at the very least, with symbols that represent darkness and rebellion against God? Take, for example, Taylor Swift's music video for her song Karma with Ice Spice. In this video, there is a scene where Swift dons what appears to be a devil-like mask. Technically, the mask represents the Greek god Hades, as the video draws on Greek and Roman mythology. However, the visual still sends a clear and dark message to the audience. This is not an isolated event. Dark and satanic imagery has increasingly found its way into mainstream music. We should take a moment to reflect on the significance of this shift. Consider Lil Nas X's highly controversial song, Montero, Call Me By Your Name. In this music video, the artist is literally depicted dancing on a figure of the devil and engaging in explicit imagery that glorifies a rebellious and sinful lifestyle. The video shocked many viewers but gained enormous popularity. Then there is Eminem, whose recent album features songs with titles like Evil Lucifer and Antichrist, and Billie Eilish, whose song, All the Good Girls Go to Hell, includes a music video where she appears as a burning angel walking through flames. If we look at other popular artists like Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Sam Smith, they too have been associated with satanic or demonic imagery, whether in music videos or live performances. So, once again, ask yourself, why are these artists so comfortable with this kind of imagery? What is driving this trend? And are they trying to tell us something? And why, of all things, would they want to associate themselves with a figure whom the Bible repeatedly warns against, Satan, the enemy of our souls? There was a time when people wanted nothing to do with Satan. In the past, even the idea of associating with the devil would have been met with fear, outrage, or at the very least, discomfort. But something has changed. Now, we are seeing a growing normalization of evil in music and popular culture. Darkness is no longer hidden in the shadows. It is boldly presented in front of us. And the more we are exposed to it, the more society becomes desensitized. We are witnessing a world that is becoming increasingly numb to the things of God. As Paul wrote in his letter to Timothy, we are living in a time when people are becoming lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. This growing love for darkness is why the world is now calling good evil and evil good. We can clearly see this reflected in today's culture, especially in music. It was once a tool for inspiration, worship, and expression, but now it is being used to blur the lines between right and wrong, light and darkness, holiness and sin. The prophet Isaiah warned us about this very thing. In Isaiah 5, verse 20, he says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness." Music, which has such a powerful influence over our emotions, thoughts, and spirit, is increasingly being used to glorify darkness. Sometimes I wonder why these celebrities are so willing to associate themselves with the devil. Do they really understand who Satan is, or do they even care? It's as if they are casually playing with fire, unaware of the eternal consequences of aligning themselves with such darkness. Do they know who Lucifer is? Do they truly know that Satan, the fallen angel, is the enemy of humanity and the enemy of their souls? And yet, they boldly dress up as demons, fallen angels, and symbols of rebellion as if it were all just a harmless performance. We should pause and reflect on whether these artists really comprehend the gravity of their actions. Is this just a trend for them? Are they seeking attention or fame? Or are they being led by spiritual forces beyond their control? It's hard to believe that anyone with a basic understanding of what the Bible teaches about Satan would choose to associate with him so openly. The scriptures are clear. He is the deceiver, the destroyer, and the father of lies. He is actively working to lure people away from the truth of God's word and into the darkness of sin and eternal separation from the Creator. And while I've mentioned a few celebrities in this sermon, the reality is that the list is much longer. It seems that in every corner of the music industry, we find artists who are subtly or overtly associating themselves with satanic imagery, whether in their lyrics, their performances, or the symbolism in their music videos. The influence of darkness is widespread. Artists like Madonna, Beyoncé, Post Malone, Travis Scott, and countless others have at one time or another embraced these symbols in their work. The entertainment industry is saturated with these images, and it raises the question, what are they trying to communicate? Is it just for shock value, or is there something deeper at play? Are these celebrities aware that they are participating in something much more dangerous than they realize? We must remain vigilant and discerning, for the enemy is cunning, and his influence extends far beyond the superficial entertainment we see. The Bible is clear in its call for Christians to live lives that are set apart, holy, and distinct from the sinful influences of the world. In Romans 12, verse 2, we are told, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." The pattern of this world is one that glorifies rebellion against God. It's a pattern that celebrates sin, immorality, and darkness. But we, as followers of Christ, are called to reject this pattern and embrace a life of righteousness. 1 Peter 1 verse 16 echoes this call to holiness. Be holy, because I am holy. Holiness means to be set apart, distinct, and pure. It means rejecting the sinful influences that are so prevalent in the world today. But when we repeatedly expose ourselves to these influences through music, media, and entertainment, the lines between right and wrong can become blurred. What once shocked us can become routine. What once repelled us can become attractive. This is the danger. When people continuously reject God's truth, their minds can become even more depraved. Just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do what ought not to be done. This is the tragic result of ignoring God's warnings and becoming insensitive to evil. When we allow sin to infiltrate our lives through repeated exposure, we risk losing our sensitivity to the things of God. Let's focus for a moment on the role of music in this process of desensitization. Music is one of the most powerful influences in our lives. It has the unique ability to stir our emotions, shape our thoughts, and even influence our behavior. Music is more than just entertainment. It is a tool that can draw us closer to God or push us away from Him. Think about how music is being used today. It's filled with explicit references to sin, rebellion, and even satanic imagery. In the past, music with such blatant representations of evil would have caused outrage or discomfort. But with repeated exposure, these images no longer shock us. Instead, they're accepted as just another form of entertainment. Let me ask you, have you noticed how easy it is for people today to consume music filled with dark themes, violent lyrics, and even open rebellion against God without feeling any sense of discomfort? This is desensitization at work. When evil becomes normalized, it no longer alarms us, it no longer bothers us. Instead, it becomes something we enjoy, something we celebrate, and something we allow into our lives without question. But the Bible warns us about the dangers of this kind of exposure. Proverbs 4 verse 23 tells us, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." What you allow into your heart matters. The music you listen to, the media you consume, the conversations you engage in, these things have a profound impact on your spiritual well-being. When we listen to music that glorifies sin, we are allowing these sinful ideas to take root in our hearts and minds. You may not notice it at first, but over time, repeated exposure to this type of music can lead to a heart that is no longer sensitive to the things of God. This is the danger of desensitization. It dulls our awareness of sin and makes us more vulnerable to compromise. That's why it's so important to be selective about the music you allow into your life. The music you listen to has a tremendous effect on you, whether you realize it or not. Just as positive and uplifting music can inspire and draw you closer to God, negative or sinful music can have the opposite effect. It can push you away from God, cloud your discernment, and harden your heart to the truth. The Apostle Paul gives us clear guidelines on what we should focus on in Philippians 4 verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. This also applies to the music we listen to. Does the music you consume reflect what is pure and noble? Does it draw you closer to God or pull you away from Him? Ephesians 5 verse 19 encourages us to speak to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing and making music from your heart to the Lord. Music is a powerful tool, and it can either be used to glorify God or to lead us away from Him. It is a gift from God, designed to glorify Him and inspire us to live a life of worship. But when music is used to glorify sin, it becomes a tool for the enemy to draw us away from God. The power of music lies in its subtlety. You may not even be aware of the effect it is having on you. Music has a way of bypassing our intellectual defenses and embedding itself directly into our emotions and subconscious. This is why we must be careful about what we allow ourselves to listen to. The Bible is filled with examples of how music was used to glorify God and draw people into His presence. King David, known as a man after God's own heart, was a musician who used his talents to worship the Lord. The Psalms are full of songs of praise and worship meant to uplift and inspire the soul. David's music even had the power to calm the spirit of King Saul when he was troubled by evil spirits. In contrast, today's music is often designed to stir sinful desires, to glorify things like greed, lust, violence, and pride. It's no wonder that Satan, the enemy of our souls, uses music as a tool to draw people away from God. But we as Christians must remain vigilant. We must choose music that builds us up, strengthens our faith, and brings us closer to the heart of God. Brothers and sisters, we are living in a time when the lines between good and evil are becoming increasingly blurred. Music is one of the most powerful tools used to desensitize people to sin. The frequent use of satanic and demonic imagery in music is not something to be taken lightly. It is a sign of the spiritual battle that is taking place around us. But we are not without hope. God has given us His Word to guide us, His Spirit to strengthen us, and His grace to sustain us. We are called to live holy lives, set apart from the world, and focused on what is good, true, and pure. Let us be vigilant in guarding our hearts and minds. Let us choose to fill our lives with music that glorifies God, draws us closer to Him, and inspires us to live our faith with integrity and conviction. And let us pray for those who are being led astray by the darkness of this world, that they may come to know the light of Christ, the only one who can set them free.